Okay. So once you've kind of found that place on your mat that's comfortable, you can begin to settle in. So just settling into your physical body. You might walk your shoulders underneath your back. Okay. Legs can be planted flat, or you can extend your legs out. You might even just take a couple of swallows through your throat so you can relax into the front of your neck. Okay. Hands can land. If you're feeling a little bit uprooted or disconnected, it can be really nice to land the hands over top of your body, so left over your heart, right over your belly, just to feel into the movement of the breath. But you can also just take your hands down beside your body like you would in Shavasana, being open to receive. If you want to use any props or blocks for this, so you wanted to come to supported fish or bridge, that's also optional. I just really encourage you to start somewhere that you are most comfortable. Okay. So as I kind of mentioned earlier, today's practice is really going to be about just self-care. So moving the body in a way that feels good, that there doesn't have to be an end goal, there doesn't have to be a reason, just that it simply is where we need to be. In that moment is what our body is craving. So know that as you move through this practice, this doesn't have to look exactly as I might be demoing. This can be an exploration of self. And I think these past few weeks have been a really big shift. There's been a lot of loss of what our normal used to look like, and I think there's also a lot of exhaustion of trying to keep up with this feeling of being enough, this keeping up with seeing what everyone else is doing at their free time. I think those of us working from home are working a lot more, so there's a lot of that busyness. I also just think that there's a lot of shifts happening where we have to learn how to pivot and redirect our attention in a different way. Okay, so let's just start this practice as you're on your back in a space that's nourishing. Okay, so that you can start to refill the body, the soul with energy, with light, with a little bit of love. So you can even think of your breath as this filling mechanism. So as you breathe in, it's like you're drawing what you need in that moment. So peace, space, love, gentleness, courage. And then as you breathe out, you're just letting that settle in your physical body. Okay, so the breath in is a gathering, and the breath out is a landing. And each exhale breath allows you to land deeper, not only in connection to what you're calling into your practice, but also just more in connection to your physical body, more into connection of this space, allowing the outside world to move around you while you just find a place of stillness. And you might even get those reminders of that movement of the outside world in distraction of sounds or movement, or even the busyness of your household around you. But let that be your reminder to slow down. That when we're so busy doing, we're really forgetting to be able to live. I really do think of this as we're in a space right now that I think a lot of us are just trying to survive. And I think we have this opportunity to really thrive our bodies. We have the space, the time to give back. And so allow your breath to be full and nourishing. So you're not just on the surface of the breath, but really diving into that full expansion of the rib cage and the belly. And that full release of any stale air, even of tension of muscles and joints. And just take a couple more deep breaths here. Getting in tune with your body this morning. Each breath is just this carving out of space for yourself to simply land. I really believe in intentionality, and so if there's any intention you want to bring to your practice, that could be the reason you chose to show up on your mat today, the reason you chose to land here, perhaps why you always show up to your practice. It might just be what you need from today, so bringing that into mind. Remembering to come back to this, it can be a really beautiful reminder when we get stuck or we're in a challenge to just bring us back to why we started in the first place, why we continually show up. And let's gently begin to stretch this out. So if you are in seated, you'll gently make your way onto your back. Straighten out your legs, straighten out your arms, and just take a nice, big, full body stretch. Reaching your arms overhead, point through your toes. You might even feel a yawn or a stretching of the face. And then as you exhale, stay in this shape, but just soften. So elbows might relax, feet might flop out to the side. Let's take 2 more breaths just like that. So inhale, breath, reach and lengthen. You're just waking up for your day. And then exhale, soften. Let's take 1 more breath just like that. Inhale, expand. And exhale, release, let that go. Draw your knees into your chest. You can take that one at a time. Hands or arms wrap around tops of your shins, maybe the backs of your hamstrings, and just gently rock side to side a couple of times. Okay. Land your feet onto your mat about hip width distance apart. Hands down beside your body. Okay, walk your heels in nice and close. So your pointer fingers might brush the backs of your heels. Don't worry if they don't, that's okay. This is just an alignment cue that works for most people, but doesn't mean it's gonna work for your body. Okay, and starting to find our vinyasa. So vinyasa, just translating as flowing with breath. So inhale, breath, lift your fingertips up to the ceiling, palms face in, and take your arms overhead. Okay, so fingertips point back behind you. Exhale, lift your hands up to the ceiling and bring your hands down beside your body. So palms will face in the whole time. Inhale, lift up. And exhale, bring the hands back down. So the inhale will lift your arms overhead in that nice big stretch. Try to keep your shoulders rooted on the ground. And then exhale, hands come down beside you. Okay, this time dancing the hips in with this movement. Inhale, press it to your feet, lift your hips up into little bridge, arms still overhead, and then exhale, roll down your spine 1 vertebra at a time, hands coming down beside you. So take this nice and slow. Inhale, lifts you up, squeeze into the back line of the body to find more lift, and then exhale, slowly lower down. Now, if you're finding this really challenging or it's not very nice on the knees, you can find a little bit more support by just leaving your hands down beside your body the whole time. Okay, let's take 1 more full breath just like that. And then when you land all the way down, heel toe your feet together to touch, knees out to the side, recline butterfly. Okay, bring your arms overhead, so a cactus shape, or they might be a diamond shape. If that's not available, take your arms out to a T. Palms face up wherever you've landed. If this feels like a lot for your knees, you can always take blocks or pillows underneath your knees. And just feel the vast amount of space that you have across your chest and in your heart center. Allow yourself to breathe into that space, dislodging any tension that's been making a home there. And as you breathe into it, you're moving through that resistance. You're moving through that tightness or gripping of the muscles, and you're beginning to expand into it. And then you're just allowing the body to relax in that space of openness. Okay, so just 1 more full deep breath in. long exhale, breath out. Okay. Gently draw your knees up through center. You can always use your hands to help. Okay, take your knees into your chest again, but this time let your knees land over top of your hips and shins in line with the ground. Flex your feet up towards the ceiling. Okay, now check in with your low back. If there is a whole lot of space there, feel the pulling of your ribs up towards your bottom two feel the pull of your hips up to your bottom two ribs. And then you can also play with pressing your belly button into your spine, so you're lessening that gap at the low back. Now take your hands onto your thighs and just begin to activate the core. So you're pressing your hands into your thighs and thighs into your hands, and then we're gonna flow with the breath with this, okay? So relax, but keep your hands glued to your thighs. Okay, take a full breath in. As you exhale, draw your thighs to your hands, hands press into your thighs, belly button towards the ground. Inhale, soften into that shape, relax the effort. And then exhale, press your hands and thighs in towards one another. Feel the strength of the core. Inhale, breath, soften, let that tension go. Let's take 3 more. Exhale, press hands into thighs, thighs into hands. Inhale, breath, release. Exhale to find that tension, a little bit of strength into the hip flexors. Okay, one more time. Inhale. And exhale, press. Let's hold here for 3. See if you can press a little bit harder for 2. And 1. Gently release your knees into your chest, hands onto your shins. Okay, start to circle your knees out, away from you to either side into your chest. So you're massaging out the SI joints, massaging out some of your lumbar spine and muscles around. Okay, switch directions. Okay, soften again through the back of the neck. Okay, and then final pose on our back, happy baby. You can just separate the knees, heels down towards the backs of the hamstrings in a modification of this. If you want to come into the full variation, you can draw your knees back together, reach for inside or outside edges of your feet. As knees draw down towards the sides of the rib cage, heels lift up. And then happy baby for me is such a joyful pose because it's really just this opportunity to move. And I mean, happy is even in the name, but this pose you actually see in real life, which is cool. So imagine that you are, watching a baby just explore movement for the first time. And there's so much joy just in this exploration and the curiosity. So see if you can bring a little element of that joy to your practice, just the joy of movement, the medicine that it can be. So it doesn't have to be hard movement. It can just be movement that feels good or feels nourishing for the body. You know that this doesn't even have to look like a happy baby if that's not what's calling to you today. But you're here for about 3 more breaths in whatever expression of this pose you want to take. Gently begin to release the grips of your feet, and then you can take your knees in once again. Now, if rocking and rolling on your spine doesn't feel good, don't do it. Just roll to either side and press up. I really like this. It's a nice massage for the spine, so hands to the backs of the kneecaps, and you can just take a couple of rocks and rolls. Eventually, you're going to meet into tabletop. So hands, fingertips will spread wide. Knees land underneath your hips. Okay, instead of moving into your cat-cows, we're just gonna find a little bit of shifting side to side for the lateral body. So you can even actually walk your handprints, one handprint ahead of where they are. So this is gonna give you a little bit more space. So hands in front of shoulders. And then drop your hips over to the right. Look over your left shoulder. Okay. As you inhale, come back up through center. And then drop your hips over to the left. Look over your right shoulder. Okay, so just take a couple more breaths just like this. Okay, really feeling into the sides of the hips, the side body, maybe a little bit into the side of the neck. Take 1 more to each side. Okay. And then come all the way back through center. Take your feet together, knees wide, child's pose. Sit your hips back to your heels. Okay, instead of making this about the length of the spine at first, you can even walk your hands in a little bit closer. Think more about taking your hips to your heels than about trying to reach your fingertips forward. So you're really looking for that release in the low back so that there's a slight rounding of your spine there. And that you're fully supported. So feel free to grab pillows to place underneath you that you can kind of hug. You might cradle your face in your hands, forehead to the ground or cheek. If your forehead to the ground, you can play with rocking side to side, massaging out the space between your eyebrows. Okay. And the space between your eyebrows is connected to your third eye center, which is your place of knowing. And so it's a really beautiful place just to activate, just trusting this intuition. What your body needs is what it's telling you. So it's not what I'm telling you. It's not what your practice has told you any other day. It's what your body's telling you right now. So just moving into that. Okay. Take 2 more breaths in this shape. Each exhale breath allowing your hips to drop closer towards your heels. And then slowly begin to walk your hands in towards your body so that you're stacking your shoulders over your hips, but your legs are still in that child's pose shape. Now, if this doesn't feel good for your knees, I know I used to have some really bad knee issues, so you can always take a pillow to sit back on and knees just won't come quite as wide. Okay, we're working into a little bit of lateral flexion. Walk your left fingertips out beside you, okay, and then sweep your right fingertip along the ground and then all the way over to the left and play with opening up your heart. So your shoulders square towards whatever the side of your mat you're facing. Okay, you're just gonna move side to side with this. So begin to rotate the rib cage down. Reach through the right fingers like you're tracing a giant circle out in front of you. Right hand will plant and then left fingertip sweep over and open up through the rib cage so your heart is centered. Okay. And we're just gonna move through this a few more times. Think about your exhale breath as bringing you through center. Inhale brings you into the expansion. So exhale, sweep left fingertips forward. You can even reach through the spine and then inhale, open up over to the left. Exhale, sweep forward and inhale, open up to the other side. Okay, you can continue in this movement. If you want to add in a little bit of the quads, as you plant your hand, you can play with picking up your hips, sending your hips forward so that you're more into a variation of camel pose, squeezing into the glutes. Okay, similar to that sensation of being in little bridge where you're picking your hips away from the earth, you need to engage into the back of your body. So hamstrings, glutes, even shoulders squeeze together. Okay, so we're just gonna stay in this movement for a little bit longer, really allowing you to just be in the joy of what it is to move your body and release some of that tension that you've been holding on to. Okay, so you can finish off this last movement, or you might take one more to each side, but we're gonna land once again into that seated child's pose. If this doesn't serve you, you can always take your knees in and just come into a seat here, or you can also come into a comfortable cross-legged seat. Okay, inhale, breath, reach your arms all the way up and reach for opposite elbows. So you're creating a square shape of your arms. If elbows aren't available, reach for forearms, wrists, hands. Okay, tip over to the left. So your left elbow drops down, right arm up. And then this movement is a little bit different. So it's gonna be similar, but it's gonna be more of a circle. So now begin to round through the spine. Tuck your chin into your chest, belly button into spine. Take your forearms towards the ground and then begin to open up to the other side. So now right arm pours over. This is where it changes. Take this full circle, come all the way back up through center. You might even take your arms back behind you in a slight back bend, and then you're gonna begin to just circle. So we'll take about 3 circles to each side, 3 or 4 circles. And it's gonna feel a little bit of tension in the shoulders as you grip with the arms. Okay, so don't worry so much about that. Just feel into the space that's being created with this movement. Okay, the next time that you come up through center, pause, and then switch to the other side. Right elbow drops down. You're now rounding over to the left and back up through center. Let's take about 2 or 3 more of those. Okay, Okay, last one. Come all the way up through center. Take a full big breath in. And then exhale, release your hands and allow them to float out to the sides. Shift over onto your seat. You can take that pillow out from under if it was there. Extend your legs out straight and then shift your hips. So you're picking up the sides of your glutes. You can feel, if you wiggle about, you should feel 2 bones pressing into the ground. Those are your sits bones. Okay, bending into your right knee. Pick your right foot up and over top of your left. Okay, 2 options. You can either wrap your left arm around your bent knee or you can hook your elbow. I like to wrap the arm, hug the knee in, standing tall, and then begin to twist over to your right side. Right fingertips walk back behind you. Gaze might even turn back. We're gonna add in a little bit of movement into the neck. You're welcome to take it or you can leave it, so yogi's choice. If you are taking it, tip your right ear over to your right shoulder and use either the hooking of your left arm or the bind to drop your left shoulder down. So you're creating this long line of energy through the left side of your neck. You notice if you're starting to slouch in the shape, keep the integrity of the spine. And then if you want to add in little movements, you can play with nuzzling your chin to your chest or up to the ceiling. Feel your belly button drawn into your spine, so still a little bit of effort as we work into easing through tension in neck and shoulders. Okay. Bring your ear back over to your shoulder and then inhale, lift your ear up. As you exhale, turn through center, plant both hands over to the left, and then begin to fold. So you're just drawing your chin to your chest, rounding through your spine. Should feel like a nice counter to where you were. And then on your next inhale, lift back up through center, and we'll just gently switch sides. So right foot uncrosses and extends, left knee bends and crosses over. Okay. Either hooking your right elbow to the outside of your left leg or hugging your knee into your chest. Start facing forward to be tall and then begin to add in the rotation of the trunk. Okay. Shoulders slide away from your ears. You're welcome to stay here. If you did so on the other side, you can begin to take your left ear to your left shoulder. And maybe you nuzzle it. If it feels like there's a space where you just need to stay and hold and let the muscles relax into that shape, that's always available. Okay, so remembering that I'm really just here as a guide through your practice, but your ultimate guide is your body. Okay, so that you don't have to do this exactly as it's being led through, that you can always kind of shift this and really take some joy in that freedom you have just to move your body. And allow your left ear to pour back over to your left shoulder. As you inhale, lift your chin up through center. As you exhale, rotate over to your right and then fold. Okay. Take a couple of deep, full belly breaths. Each exhale bringing you closer towards the ground. And then you can slowly lift up. All right, untangle your legs, walk your feet wide, walk your hands back, and then just gently drop your hips or your knees to the left and right to release your hips. Okay. I'm gonna come all the way back to tabletop. So you can shift your feet back behind you. Hands plant underneath your shoulders, hips over top of your knees. All right. Slowly begin to lift your right knee. Now you can always tuck your left toes and you're gonna keep that bend into the knee. So your right heel is coming all the way up towards the ceiling. Okay, if this isn't available, you can definitely take cat-cows with your knee down, but we're just adding in that scorpion tabletop to cat-cows. So take an inhale back, drop your belly, lift your heel, lift your gaze. As you exhale, take your right knee towards your nose. Press into the ground, curl and round through the spine. Okay, inhale, breath. Send your right heel up, gaze forward, heart draws towards the top of your mat, and then exhale, curl and round in. Press into the earth to find more lift. Let's take 2 more. Inhale, breath, pick up the heel, squeeze into your glute. Exhale, curl and round in. Okay, I know this is a little bit of effort, but we do need to create that strength in the body before we can really also begin to open. All right, the next time that you go to lift the heel, instead, pretend you're pressing to wall and send your right heel back behind you, straightening out the leg. Okay, drop your right toes all the way down. Turn and pivot, so you're kickstanding your left toes to the left side of your mat and your right foot plants flat. Take your right hand in a circular motion. So right fingertips are gonna sweep down to the ground, back behind you, up to the ceiling, and as your right hand sweeps overhead, come back to a tabletop. You're gonna find the other side. Left toes tuck and extend back. Turn and pivot to the left side of your mat. Right toes turn to the right side. As you inhale, reach your left fingertips back and up, and then exhale, take your hand down through center. Okay, let's take one more to each side. One breath. So inhale, circle the arm. Exhale brings you back through center and tabletop. And then inhale, other side. So you're in a modified plank with an arm circle. And come all the way back through to tabletop. Scorpion on the other side. This is feeling like a lot for your wrist. Just take your hands about a handprint forward. Pick up your left knee. So your left heel is about hip height. Find some space in the shoulders as you press into the mat, like you're sliding shoulder blades apart. Okay, inhale, breath. Now slide shoulder blades together and lift the heart, lift the heel, dropping the belly. Exhale, curl and round in, press to the ground, so separating the shoulders. Inhale, breath to lift the heel, lift the gaze. Exhale to curl and round in. Okay, let's take two more. Nice and slow, so you don't rush through the movement. Even if it's challenging, even then you can find the intention that you started your practice with. Okay, this time extend your left toes back behind you like you're pressing into wall, leg straightens. Drop your left toes down. We're gonna flush out that body with those side plank circles. Turn and pivot to the left. Inhale, breath, reach your right hand up and over. Exhale, hand comes down, knee in. Inhale, open up other side. Take that big circle, even reach back behind you. Send your hips forward and release down. Okay, one more to each side. Inhale, see if you can find a little bit more space. Really find this expression of your body getting really, really big. Okay. And then gently, we'll come all the way back through center. Okay, shift your hips side to side, take any movements that you need. You're working into some opening of chest, melting heart just for a few breaths. So begin to walk your fingertips forward, landing onto your forearms, forehead to your mat. And take a couple just of deep, slow, grounding breaths. Okay, so if this feels like too much, you can always come back to a child's pose. Otherwise, imagine that your heart is landing towards the earth, heavier and heavier with each exhale. Each inhale is a slight lift away, a lift up, and each exhale grounds you. Okay, so even if there is mild discomfort in the pose, can you also feel that joy of the opening, of where you're holding tension beginning to release, the joy of the space that you're creating? One more full breath in, and exhale out. Slowly walk your hands back in towards your body, tabletop. Tuck your toes under. We're gonna come into down dog a little bit differently. Float your knees off your mat, hovering tabletop. Okay, you guys got it. From hovering tabletop, try to find length in your spine. So you're gonna keep your back flat, but you're gonna take that bend out of the shoulders. Send your hips back to your heels. Press into your hands. So there's a long line now from your hands towards your hips, but really, really deep bend in the knees. So you're gonna feel that pressure into the thighs, similar to when we pushed into the thighs on our backs. Okay, now slowly begin to straighten out the legs as much as is available. So your hips are coming up to the ceiling, heels are lifted, and then exhale, slowly drop the heels just until it comes to a comfortable place. Okay, notice how much space you have in your spine and your back body. And then if you want to add a movement, maybe just pedal out the feet. If you feel like where you've landed is where you need to be, still allow for some fluidity, okay? So you're not just landing in the pose and trying to hold and grip there. That each inhale brings you a little bit of lift. Each inhale, you can call in what you need. Each exhale, place to soften, relax, find some ease. Okay, so just a couple more breaths exploring this pose, whether that's physical exploration, breath exploration, or just mindfulness. Okay. Looking forward to the top of your mat, come up high into your tippy toes. Take your time, tippy toe your way up. So you're gonna find some length in the backs of the hamstrings, tiny, tiny steps. And then once you've landed at the top, gather into a fold. So just draping the body. You might reach for opposite elbows. My favorite, my upper back has been really stiff lately. So just interlacing your hands to the back of your head, tucking chin onto chest. That can often release some good tension that's been gathering in the shoulders or rhomboid area. If you're craving any movement, swaying side to side can be nice, or if your neck is really tense, shaking your head, yes or no. Just letting your head hang heavy, upper body hang heavy as gravity begins to decompress the spine and draw your head down and hips up. Okay. Release in the grip that you have with your hands. Inhale, breath, halfway lift and lengthen, hands to your shins or to the ground. Reach your crown of your head forward, hips draw back. Exhale to fold. Okay, let's do that 2 more times. Inhale, breath, belly button to spine. Really feel like you're tipping forward. And then exhale, just draw back in towards yourself, soft bend into your knees. And 1 more breath, just like that. Inhale to halfway lift and lengthen. And exhale to fold. Okay. Bending into your knees, inhale, breath, sweep your arms all the way up, stand tall. Exhale, hands through, heart center. Okay, this is one of my favorite flows. I call it eagle chair flow. Don't worry, it's not scary. I know chairs in it, but it's not. Okay, so as you make sure your feet are about hip width distance apart, you need some room to move. Okay, inhale, breath, reach your arms all the way up. As you exhale, begin to hook your right elbow underneath your left. Okay, so you can reach for opposite shoulders. You can press the backs of your hands together. You might wrap your arms so that your palms come together. Your thumbs might hook, so whatever's available. And just start exploring eagle. So when you start, you might have your arms tucked in close to your face. So begin to draw your forearms away from your nose. Okay, check out where your shoulders are. We tend to lift shoulders right up to our ears. So drop your shoulders down your back. Okay, and then try to separate the shoulder blades. Okay, now here's where the movement comes in and a little bit of that release of tension or that stuckness. Okay, so as you inhale, stand tall, lift your fingertips up, maybe even a slight back bend. As you exhale, bend into your knees, curl it round through your spine and try to draw your elbows between your knees towards inner thighs, chin tucks to chest. Okay, 2 more breaths just like that. Inhale to lift all the way up, stand tall. Exhale, curl and round in. Let's take 1 more breath just like that. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, round in, belly button to spine. Inhale, stand tall. Exhale, unwind the arms and fold. Okay. Inhale, breath, halfway lift and lengthen. Exhale to fold. Plant your hands, step your left toes to the back of your mat. Drop your left knee. Okay, monkey lunge. Use your inhale breath to lift up. So your hands are above your shoulders, shoulders above your hips. Okay, those of you with low back sensitivities, we tend, when we have a low back sensitivities, to not actually engage the low back and we just dump into the hip flexors. So you actually want to strengthen the hip flexors and lengthen the quads. So press into your front foot, shift some weight back, and then feel this. It's a tuck of the tailbone, but more so think about a lift of the hips up to the ribs. So that's actually going to tuck your tailbone and engage your core. Okay, now release your hands behind your back, because I know that that can be a lot on the shoulders. Interlace your hands and just begin to roll the shoulders up and down. Knuckles draw towards your left calf. Back toes can be tucked or untucked. I like the sensation of tucked, but it's really yogi's choice. Okay, see if you can find a little bit more lift. And then as you exhale, gently release the grip of your hands to frame your front foot. Tuck your back toes to lift your back knees. So you're in a low lunge. Okay, it's gonna be a little bit of a different movement than we've sometimes been in before. You're coming to a half split with your back knee hovering. So begin to transfer the weight into your back leg, bending into your left knee, right toes turn up, left knee hovers, so it's a bit more active. You're gonna feel this right down the right hamstring and calf. Inhale, breath, shift forward. Low lunge, you can lift the heart, drop the hips or the knee if you'd like to more of a monkey lunge. And then exhale to this half split. Right toes turn up, left heel hovers. Optional, use blocks if the ground feels really far. You're just gonna move through low lunge and half splits about 3 more times. If the knee hovering is just not for you today, drop the knee. That's really just a variation. It's gonna be a little bit more active lengthening than passive. Okay, it's gonna give you a bit of a different sensation. Okay, let's take one more breath just like that. And then we'll knee into our low runner's lunge. Okay, low runner's lunge, you're gonna turn your feet to a warrior two, but keep your body low. So left foot turns and plants. So your left toes point to the left edge of your mat. And then walk your fingertips over towards the top left corner of your mat. So your body is going over to the left, but your legs are staying as they are. Tent up onto your fingertips. Take a full breath in. And then as you exhale, just soften and fold. Let your head hang heavy between your upper arms. You're really gonna feel this into the right hip, and that's okay. Feel like you're drawing your right hip towards your back left heel. So instead of the hip drawing out to the side, it's gonna scoot back behind you. Okay, we're only here for one more breath, I promise. Okay. As you exhale, gently, you can begin to walk your hands back through to center. Okay, turn and pivot onto your back toes. So you're back in your lunge. Roll to the pinky side edge of both feet. Okay, so you're dropping your left hip down. Now, if this feels weird for the right knee, heel toe your right foot a little bit closer through center. This should give you a bit of release into that left hip. You want to make this more passive, you can drop the hip entirely and just pause here. Maybe right hand comes into your right inner thigh. Just make sure that there's no pulling in your right knee wherever you've landed. So whether that's in an active variation of this or passive with the hip down. Close your eyes and take 3 full breaths. So just notice how this feels in the body. If you don't like where you've landed, switch, get fluid, get shifty in a good way, where you just begin to find yourself in a place that's nourishing. All right. If your hip is all the way down, lift your hip up so you're back into more of the active variation. Turn and pivot your toes towards the front of the room. Once again, warrior 2 feet. And then on an inhale, windmill up. So you actually land in your warrior 2. Okay, now that front hip might be a little bit sticky, so we're gonna move through it. Flip your right palm to face up. As you inhale, straighten into your right leg. Reach right fingertips skyward. Left hand slides down your back leg. Exhale, breath, warrior 2. Move nice and slow so you can really feel into the pose. And then inhale, straighten your front leg and tip back. Okay, one more time, just fleshing this out with your breath. Bending into your front knee, press the palms down. Inhale, breath, lift all the way up. Okay, and then exhale, warrior 2. Okay, sweep your left hand down and to the front. Feet stay as they are. So you're still in a warrior 2 feet, but now you're squaring your rib cage to the front. Okay, same eagle arms that we found at the start of this flow. Right arm wraps underneath left. Opposite shoulders, opposite hands, whatever your body is craving. Because it's going to be a little bit different, so take the movement nice and slow. Take an inhale breath. You might even lift your fingertips up. As you exhale, begin to hinge towards your front leg. Sweep your elbows to the inside of your thigh. This is where it switches. Shift your weight into your back leg. Back knee bends, front toes turn up. Try to take your elbows towards your back knee. Okay, we're gonna do this 2 more times. Shift forward, warrior 2 with eagle arms. Let your arms guide you up, fingertips to the ceiling. Exhale, hinge forward, and then shift into Skandasana. Left knee bends, right leg straightens. Okay, one more time. Inhale to lift all the way up, warrior 2. Exhale to Skandasana. Okay, release the grip of your hands, so hands come down. Turn and pivot. So you're gonna turn and pivot all 10 toes to the back of the mat. Okay, so you're now into a low runner's lunge. Drop your back knee. Heel toe your left foot outside of your left hand for lizard. Okay, You can keep your back knee rooted. If you want an active lizard, back knee is lifted. You can roll to the pinky side edge of your front foot. You can just play with a little bit of movement, whether it's forward and coming back out of it. Okay, take about 5 full breaths to explore lizard. So really getting that nice opening for your right hip. Right hip being in a lot of flexion in those last few poses, a lot of strength in the warriors and lunges. So now just finding a space to release. Okay. And you'll gently take your hands down to your mat, tuck your back toes to lift your knee, keep your left foot out wide and left toes turned out to the side. Step your right foot to the outside of your right hand for yogi squat. Just sink your hips down. Okay. Now it might feel nice just to create a little bit of movement, shifting side to side. If all the way down isn't very nice for knees, shift side to side up here, hips above your knees. Okay, so instead of making this a pose that you just have to land in and stay still, you can find movement. We're not here for very long, so about 2 more breaths. If you want to land in stillness, you're welcome to take hands through heart center and just settle into this shape. Okay. And then release your hands down onto your mat. Pick up your hips, send your hips up to the ceiling, and turn your toes to face. So the new front of your mat is the back of your mat. Okay, feet are nice and wide, so at least hip width distance. Bend deeply into both knees. Plant your left hand into the center of your mat. As you inhale, straighten out your right leg and twist open to the right. Right hand to low back or all the way up to the ceiling so that you're getting this deep, juicy bend in the left knee and nice lengthening through the right outer thigh. Okay, as you exhale, bend back into both knees. Right hand comes down. Inhale, take the other side. Twist open to the left. You can kick your left hip out to the side or back. And then exhale to come back through center. Okay, one more time to each side. So just moving through any of that stickiness of the body. Okay. Let's come all the way back through to center. Okay, inhale, breath halfway lift and lengthen. And exhale to fold. Plant your hands, step your toes back to a high plank. All right, walk your big toes together to touch. Walk your right hand, one handprint forward. Roll to the pinky side edge of your right foot, side plank. Inhale, breath, sweep your left fingertips back behind you, up to the ceiling. Exhale, left hand reaches forward and down. Turn back to your high plank. Walk your right hand in and left hand out. So left hand is in front of right. And find the other side. Optional, you can always drop the shin like we did earlier. And just take a nice full circle into your high plank. All right. Come all the way back to high plank. Lower onto your knees, and then lower yourself all the way down onto your belly. Untuck your toes, cobra. Peel your heart away from the mat as you draw the crown of your head forward, elbows pulled back. Exhale to release back down. Let's take one more breath just like that. Inhale, squeeze into the glutes, lift through the heart. Exhale, release. Press into your hands. Lift up and back to child's pose, hips to heels. Okay, 2 options. You can take a curled and rounded spine, or you can walk the fingertips forward if you want to work more into tractioning and lengthening of the entire spine. 3 recovery breaths wherever you are within this shape. Okay, so we're going to come into a half moon sequence and just turn back the other way with this. Okay, so know that you can always explore a little bit differently if you feel called to it on this side. So slowly peel yourself away from your mat back to tabletop. Tuck your toes, lift your hips up, downward facing dog. So you should be facing the back of your mat. If you're facing the front, no worries. We'll just still move to the other side. It's gonna look a little different and that's okay. Looking forward, begin to walk your way to the top of your mat. Okay, inhale, breath to halfway lift and lengthen. Exhale to fold. Bend into your knees. Inhale, sweep your arms all the way up. And exhale, hands through heart center. Okay. Feet hip width distance apart, so you have some room to bend to the knees and move the body. Inhale, breath, reach up. Exhale, take your left elbow this time underneath your right. Eagle your arms. Okay. Before you go into the movement, take some breaths just to explore this shape. So settling shoulders down your back, softening through the knees. Allow your face to relax instead of gripping your teeth, that there's areas of ease in the body. As you inhale, you'll lift your fingertips all the way up. As you exhale, bend your knees, curl and round your body and chin to your chest. Inhale, breath to lift up, stand tall. Exhale to curl and round, tuck your tailbone down, hips lift up to your ribs. Okay, one more time. Inhale to lift up, and then exhale to round in. Okay, inhale, lift up. Exhale, hold. Okay, inhale, unwind, reach your arms all the way up. And then exhale, forward fold, swan dive. Okay. Halfway lift and lengthen. Exhale to fold. This time step right toes back. Okay, drop your right knee down. And then as you inhale, take your fingertips all the way up. If you want to explore a different arm variation, you could play with that box shape of the arms. You could play with taking your hands to your low back, fingertips press into your glutes, send your hips forward. You could just bind the opposite hand. So wherever you are, just think about pressing into your front foot to shift back, but then sending your hips forward. So it's like someone's tucking your tailbone under for you. Right hip draws forward, left hip draws back. Okay, one more full breath in your monkey lunge. And then as you exhale, you'll gently release your hands down to frame your front foot. Tuck your back toes to lift your back knee. Optional, you can lower your back knee in half splits, or if you want a little bit of that different movement, right knee's gonna stay lifted. So begin to shift back. Right knee bends, left toes turn up, lengthening through the back leg. Okay, inhale, breath, press off your back toes to shift forward, lunge. Might feel nice to drop the right hip for a moment, and then shift back. So this variation of splits is gonna strengthen your hip flexors, especially right now into that right one. So you might be feeling a little bit of that effort. That's okay. Okay, we're gonna stay here for about 3 more rounds of breath and movement, knowing you can always drop the knees at any point, or you can make this your own variation. Just find some fluidity in the body. Okay, we'll take 1 more round of breath and movement. And then shifting forward, you're gonna meet into your low runner's lunge. Turn your back foot so you're in a warrior 2 stance with the feet, and then walk your fingertips over to the top right corner of your mat. Tent up onto all 10 fingertips. Inhale, breath, fill up. Exhale, fold between your arms. Okay. Allow your head to hang heavy. You can even shake it yes and no if you're feeling that tension into your neck. You're feeling a lot of tension in the legs. Notice if they're trying to scoop out to the left. Can you pull your left hip towards your right back heel? Okay. Allow yourself to breathe through this shape, knowing you can always take less intensity, hands come a little bit closer in. 1 more breath, and then our next movement will release this. Okay. So you'll walk your hands back to frame your front foot, turn your back toes so the heel is lifted, and then turn all 10 toes over towards the left side of your mat. So you're rolling towards the pinky side edge of your feet. Okay, so you're on the knife edge of your right foot and your left. Right hip can drop low to the ground. It might sink all the way down. You can always plant your left foot if that feels better. So there's lots of options, but just trying to release into that left hip especially. Okay. Hold for just a couple more breaths. So we're not rushing out of this ease or transition. And then you'll release your hands down once again. We're setting up for warrior 2. So pick up your hips, turn and pivot to the front, starting in low runner's lunge. Turn your back foot and plant it, and then as you inhale, wind up, landing in your warrior 2, palms pressing down. Okay, let's flush out that front hip. Flip your left palm to face up. Inhale, straighten into your front leg, reach left fingertips skyward. Exhale, flow back to warrior 2. Okay, softness to the arms. Inhale, lift up. Almost imagine like you're moving through water. So there's a little bit of resistance around the movement, which allows us to be soft. Okay, 1 more time. Inhale, breath, lift all the way up. And then exhale, warrior 2. On your inhale, sweep your right fingertips down to the ground and up. So you're now facing the front of your mat. If this doesn't serve your back leg to be here, again, you can always turn it to a warrior 1 position. Okay, sweep your left arm underneath your right, eagling your arms. We have 3 of these movements. So as you inhale, Lift up with the fingertips. As you exhale, begin to slide your elbows towards the inside of your left leg, and then shift the weight back. Bend into your right knee, elbows maybe to your knee, left toes turn up. So it's not as low Skandasana as we might be used to. Inhale will draw you back up to warrior two with eagle arms. And then exhale is shifting you to Skandasana. But there's that movement of the spine that mimics cat-cows. Okay, let's take one more breath just like that. Whew, almost lost it. All right, coming back to Skandasana. You can then release your hands, walk over to the back of your mat, pivot all 10 toes, drop your left knee, and then lizard. Heel toe your right foot to the outside of your right hand, turn your right toes out to 1 or 2 o'clock, and then just feel that release into both the right hip, so the glutes, the outer edge, and then you might feel this into the left hip flexor and into the quad. You can always take little movement, shifting forward and back, rolling to the pinky side edge. So we're here for about 5 more breaths just to explore this movement. And then on your next breath or two, you'll begin to take your hands back down to your mat. Get a little bit different this time. Tuck your back toes to lift your back knee. On an inhale breath, sweep your right toes up to the ceiling, 3-legged dog. Bend into your right knee, stack into your hips. As you exhale, take your right knee to your right wrist, right ankle to the left side of your mat, half pigeon. Untuck your back toes, walk your hands up. So you're in an upright variation, shoulders over top of your hips. Now you're welcome to stay here as long as you'd like, or you can begin to walk your hands forward and drape over top of your front leg. Now if half pigeon feels like a lot for your hip flexor or your front knee, come into deer instead, so that both legs are bent, weight is in your front hip, and then you're just folding over top of your right shin. You soften and relax into the back of your head, neck, shoulders. Allow the earth to meet you here in this shape to just support you. Take some nourishing and deep breaths to fill up with oxygen, to fill up with energy for the body. If you want to take any final variation in this pose, you're welcome to do so now. And the last couple of breaths. And then you'll begin to walk your hands back in towards your body. Let's meet back to down dog. So tucking your back toes, lift your knee. As you press into your hands, step your right foot back. Now it can feel nice to shift through the body, side to side, picking up one heel. So yogis twice. When you're ready, just simply draw your left toes up, bending to your left knee, stacking to your hips. And then left knee draws to your left wrist, left ankle to the right side of your mat. You once again start in that upright place so that you can feel into the right hip flexor and that your hips are square. And then when you're ready, you can just begin to fold. So this leg might feel a little bit more open as it didn't just go through a whole sequence, and it's a little bit more rested. But see if you can still bring some element of ease to your shoulders, to your breath. Now is not the time to push through that. There were moments in your practice that were challenging, there were moments that were strong, and to just honor those moments by actually giving yourself the rest that you need now. I think we sometimes try to honor those moments by continuing that push, by trying to prove that we don't need rest, that we are enough. We're trying to prove that we're strong, but to who? You know, our bodies are built to give us information about what's happening within them. And I think strength is really dropping the ego. It's dropping the ego to just listen to what our bodies need and to really have that courage to step outside of the norm and to take what you need, to step outside of a regular yoga practice and just begin to explore and get creative and really begin to create this trust with self that you already know the answer. Okay, last couple of breaths on this side, those of you that want to switch up the variation. And then you can slowly begin to walk your hands in towards your body. This time you'll shift over onto your left hip and scoop your right leg around and in front. Okay. 2 options. So forward fold, you can straighten out your legs and hinge forward and drape your body. This is going to get you more into the backs of the hamstrings. Those of you that want to work into the low back, it'll actually serve you more to take that deep bend in the knees, and it's almost more of a fetal fold. But you'll allow your chin to tuck in towards your chest, rooting through your sits bones. Think about pressing your weight down into your mat via your hips, and then just allow your body to drape heavy forward. Okay. So the difference between the two is that sometimes with legs straight, we end up using our back muscles to try to hold us up in this shape, when we can use the support of our thighs to drape forward, that you can completely relax and melt into those muscles on either side of the spine. And the muscles that connect into the hips and low back can also be soft. Okay. So whatever you've chosen, just take 3 more giant breaths there. Letting your head hang heavy. And let your breath be long. And you can just gently begin to walk your hands back in towards your body. Okay, you'll slowly lower yourself down. If you need to shift forward, that's okay. Okay, now it might feel nice to either take knees into chest, you can take a giant stretch overhead. And we're gonna close off with a couple of twists today. Okay. So whenever you're ready, just plant your feet onto your mat. Shift your hips over to the left side. Shoulders will stay centered. Then you can pick your knees up and slowly begin to drop your knees over to the right. Okay. Arms can cactus or extend out. Just make sure that both shoulder blades are rooted down, and then gaze might fall over your left shoulder. Take a couple of deep full belly breaths. Beginning to calm the nervous system, beginning to just calm your body, really giving yourself space to rest. And then on your next inhale breath, you can slowly bring your chin back up through center. You'll lift your knees back up, and then you'll plant your feet, and you can shift your hips back into the center. If you need any movement, you might drop knees left and right, or knees to chest. Okay, there's no right or wrong. And then when you're ready, you'll shift your hips up and over to the right, knees in towards your chest, and then they'll slowly drop over to the left. Okay, you can always use props or pillows to prop you up, or in between the legs, underneath. So just coming to this place of comfort. And then I just had this poem I really want to share with you guys that I wrote quite a while ago when I was going through my own period of grieving, of loss. And I think it's a really beautiful reminder that our healing, whether it's of the physical body, of the mental, of the emotional, that it doesn't happen all at once, and it doesn't have to look like anyone else's. Okay. So you can slowly begin to guide yourself back up through center, taking any final movements your body is craving. You're setting yourself up for a Shavasana. And if you want to come to stillness, you could always turn your music down a little bit as well. It can always be nice. Okay. So healing isn't horizontal. It doesn't come all at once like you hope it will. And there's no finish line. There's no ribbon to cross. And there's definitely no medicine. You hold on to the smallest pieces of the past, even if you refuse to admit it. You hold on still to what could have been, if only. But it's not. It never will be. And that's okay. Because healing isn't horizontal. There's those moments that you hear a song that will take you back to that place, to those smells, to those memories. But 3 minutes later, the song is over. The moment is fleeting. And suddenly you can breathe again and know that you'll be okay. Because healing isn't horizontal. You take side trips to deal with buried insecurities, to sew up old wounds, to embrace your fears. And then you find your feet again. And slowly each step leads you closer to healing. But take your time, because healing isn't horizontal. I think as we move through this unprecedented time of grief and of healing, that we really have this opportunity just to listen to our bodies and really honor ourselves of what we need in that moment, and of maybe even what that looks like for us, and to be really gentle with ourselves, that keeping those reminders, you are doing the best that you can with what you have. So remind yourself, you're doing the best you can with what you have. Okay. So much love, so much gratitude from the bottom of my heart. Namaste. Okay, so you guys can just take your time to come out of